Hey everybody, it's your old pal Mike. I hope you're happy, healthy, and safe. I have so many guitars waiting to be worked on that there's not enough time to do them all, and certainly not enough time to videotape them all. So I've got a lot of work to do, but I wanted to get to this one because it belongs to one of my Patreon supporters. Matt is a fellow that we all know and love over on the Discord, whom we kind of bullied into buying a 65 Jazzmaster, which is what you see before me. I promise it was a lot nicer than that, but it was essentially just like 90 people enabling somebody else to spend a lot of money on a cool guitar. But I'm really glad that he did, because he ended up with something that is, I mean, just incredible. I mean, look at this thing. Just like a perfect, beautiful 65 Jazzmaster. Now, it does have some replaced parts, most notably the pickguard, and it's got a couple of issues, mainly with the wiring, and that is precisely the reason that I am before you today. This guitar has a problem wherein the rhythm circuit is the only thing that's functional. Only the neck pickup and only the dark controls, the 1 meg and the 50K here, are working. The lead circuit is completely dead. There is no sound coming from this thing, except when I turn the volume knob. It's not a musical sound, it's just kind of a rumble, kind of the hint of something wanting to activate. So I'm going to pull the guard off, and I'm going to see what exactly is going on. My suspicion is that some parts may be grounding out, a wire may have been misplaced, or something terrible happened when this bridge pickup was replaced. This happens to be an AVRI 62 bridge pickup, and I believe I've got what purports to be the original right here, and I'm going to reinstall it and see if I can get some good sound out of this one instead. I've plugged into the JCM 2000 behind me. Thank you, Greg, for letting me borrow this while my JMP is getting serviced. I thought I'd prove to you just what we're dealing with. So here's the neck pickup through the rhythm circuit. It's doing something. Turn the rhythm circuit off. Absolutely nothing. So today's task is to address that first and get the guitar working so that I can evaluate how it sounds, how it's functioning, what else needs to happen in order for this to be a playable, usable, functional guitar. Okay, as you can see, I have got the guard off. Already, I'm seeing a couple things that I don't really like. The most obvious of which is this clump of electrical tape, which does not inspire confidence. And I'm that I'm gonna put a Picard meme up on the screen because I don't know that I have the words to fully elucidate what I'm feeling in this moment, but please don't do this. It's bad enough, yet understandable, to have a single splice in a wire. If you don't have a spare, I get it. That's okay. I've been there before. But two? We are going to be earmarking some of my wire to replace that, because that is ridiculous. Okay, this could be problem number one. I'm not sure if signal is getting through, but I do have my multimeter here for continuity. All right, and are we getting signal? It's at least working. That sure is something. Now, the second thing that I see that does not bode well is we've got a broken terminal on this tone pot, and that tone pot is original, and sadly we're going to have to replace that. There simply is no good solid way to repair that, and I've got some spares, so I'm happy to donate one to Matt's cause. Otherwise, most of the connections seem to be solid. I may need to reflow a few solder joints. Am I getting anything? Yeah, I'm getting something from the switch. Those are working. Most of the connections seem fine to me. I may have to reflow some solder joints, of course. A little concerned about the switch. The switch might actually be the problem. But as far as I know, got connection there. This is to you. That's working. This is the connection to the lead pot. That's a really bad looking solder joint. That might be part of the problem. The formerly red wire to the neck pickup. That's working. So why isn't the lead circuit working? You know, now that the guard is out of the body, I'm going to plug it in one more time and just see if it works. Because sometimes the way you orient the pots on the guard can actually short the thing out because we've got these shielding tubs inside here. And if, say, a pot terminal touches that, then the whole circuit will go quiet. So let's plug in, see if that changes. I don't know. That's the sound of a pickup. Oh, it might be! Where's the bridge? Ooh. Okay, we've got some... Okay, so what that tells me is we've got a situation where a component is making contact with the brass shielding tubs, as I described earlier, and grounding out the circuit. The lead circuit is functional. It's just getting choked out. All right, I love good news, and this is the best kind of news possible. This kind of news ensures that my job of bringing this guitar back into fighting shape is going to be a lot easier than I anticipated. Because we've got a grounding out situation going on, well, that's one of the easiest possible fixes for a dead lead circuit. And because that's the issue, I'm fairly confident I'm going to be able to keep this as original as possible, with the exception of the broken tone pot and that one horribly spliced wire. So why don't I get into it? I think I may also go to the trouble of reflowing a couple of these solder joints because this wire is looking kind of old. And we are going to get rid of this old bad foam as well because that's not going to help. Yeah, perfect. Oh, this isn't even attached. Jeez. There's all kinds of fun stuff going on in here, Matt. And this is an... Okay, that's another wire I'm going to replace. Well, I love surprises, don't you? And by the way, I think it's coming out on the camera, but the previous owner of this guitar left his little mark in the bridge pickup cavity, and I love that. That's the best possible scenario. Really an easy fix, I think. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say it was partially non-functional for like 30 years? And that's all it was. Tilt your pots. You could have played it this whole time. I'm so sorry, Dave. Sorry about that. We lost sound for a moment. I'm just gonna ride because I don't feel like redoing every single thing that just happened. Oh, this laptop that I'm recording on. Anyway, let's get back to it. I'm gonna get rid of this pickup. Number one, because it's an AVRI 62 reissue, which is fine, but it doesn't really belong in here. This amount of splicing, however, is egregious. We are going to get rid of this completely and reinstall the original bridge pickup later. It is, however, the original cover, so we're going to stick with that. I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this wire that is giving me so much anxiety. Going to remove this tape, and I'm just going to cut the splice off because there's no sense in attempting to save that. Chomping at the bit to get rid of this horrible, horrible wire. Yeah, get rid of that. Just a nice, easy connection. Now I reserve the right to replace this rhythm circuit switch if indeed it does present a problem down the road, but my first instinct is to just get the entire circuit working properly and then reevaluate how each component is performing and then elect to replace or repair or clean out or lubricate anything that needs it. I suspect that all of this wire is brand new because a lot of it isn't waxed. A lot of it doesn't have wax coating like original Fender wire would at this point, so I'm not really sure what to make of it, but in any case, use my needle nose to build in just a little bit of slack. I'm going to bend right around the pots here. And again, I'll be replacing that tone pot, so no big deal. Just going to build in a little bit of slack in case down the road this input jack rotates. Yeah, that should be plenty. And just use a little bit of new solder. Yeah, that's what I like to see. So that was the first order of business. It's just getting that wire replaced. I'm going to put that old bridge pickup back in, and then we're going to replace the tone pot. That's what I'll do. Now, before I put this back in, I need to test it and make certain it's actually doing things. Because I don't know. I actually don't know if this pickup even works. So I'm going to use my multimeter to see if I can get a reading off of it. 7. That's not too bad. That's consistent with readings that I've gotten from mid-60s Jazzmaster pickups. If you didn't know, the gray bobbin pickups that appeared after the black bobbins were phased out in late 64, they are generally just a little bit quieter, underwound, and a little bit brighter than the earlier black bobbin pickups, which I love for their loud, darker sound. The neck pickup on this one reads at 7.1, which is just a little bit hotter, but that's within tolerance, I think. So we're going to have a good sound either way. This pickup seems to be missing a lead, so I'm going to go ahead, install my own. A little bit of length on there so that I can safely route it to the switch. I think I'm going to replace the ground as well. Yeah, that's looking a little ratty and not great. So let's replace that while we're here. Want to be super careful working on pickup terminals. It's a place where all manner of things can go wrong. You can very easily kill a pickup just by overheating or not taking care to ensure that the finish and start wraps of the coil are fully secured. But if you're gentle, you work slowly, should be fine. I think that's plenty to get to the switch, and this will be plenty to get to the pot. And let me check readings, because sometimes when you reheat these things, they read a little bit differently. 7.08. Hey, we got a little bit more out of it. I'm just going to do this out of the body. It's a little bit easier, for me at least. Your mileage, as always, may vary. And I'll clean this up a little bit later. And the ground, I am going to leave a little bit more than I need just because I don't like super short wires on pickups. I don't like to see that or work with it. And I'm going to route it straight to the ground on the volume pot, I think. I think that's the safest and nicest way to go. There we go. I think it's time to replace that pot. Now, Matt, I'm going to give you a brand new 1 meg CTS pot from my stash that I've saved away for my Jaguar projects I've got going, and that's projects, plural. And I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart because I appreciate your support on Patreon. That's right, friends, I have a Patreon, and if you'd like to know more about how to support my work, click the link in the description down below. On with the work. That may be one of the finest Patreon ads anyone has ever performed in the history of the YouTube. I'm just going to reheat these pickup terminals on the neck because I just don't trust this wire. A lot of it looks super crispy and corroded, and I just want to make sure that this thing is the best possible guitar it can be for my buddy Matt. And luckily there's plenty of lead left. I'm going to pre-tin this old wire because you can sometimes find that it doesn't want to take solder because of its age. Oh yeah, see, this thing is not into the idea of tinning. I think we'll get it if we just hold it there long enough. Yeah, there we go. Layer of crud is burning off, and yeah, we've got ourselves a much nicer pre-tinned wire. You'll love to see it. Much nicer. And this wire right here looks like it's going to break, so I'm going to do that as well. It was just stuck on there. It wasn't even through the eyelet. We're going to use a different wire for this. I just don't trust it. I just don't trust certain old wires, and I feel the compulsion to replace them. I just think you're going to be much happier what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the ground to the volume control of the rhythm circuit. It's just a much more stable connection than throwing it on the plate here. I just sometimes don't trust the shielding plates as a ground connection, so that's my choice right here. Let's run a little wire out under the pickup. We're just going to use the entire length that I've chosen and secure it right to this volume pot, right where the tone cap is going. It's a really convenient place to put a ground. Convenient, solid. Yeah, I'm much happier about that. Okay, that's a way better place to put that. And I'm just going to take some readings off that pickup just to double check that it's working now. Oh, that went down. That says 703. Well, you never can tell. Let's replace that tone control and see what we've got going on. So we're going to take the original tone cap off of this original pot. There we go. That's really all we needed from that. Isn't that tall enough? It's probably tall enough. This is a Fender style pot. Yeah, that'll be tall enough, I think. And while we're at it, I'm just going to make sure that these terminals are not going to make contact with the brass shield inside, because I want this to work. Do love this job, though. Do love doing things to guitars. Oh, makes me so happy. And we're going to just replace this blue wire entirely, I think, because it's just gross. We're just gonna make sure all is primed and ready for new wire. Yep, that's good to go. I like to bend the terminals so that they don't stick out. Instead, they stick straight up. It's a cleanliness thing, and it's also another way to prevent those terminals touching something they shouldn't be. All right. And the tone cap. An OG crusty tone cap that I hope was still working, but the tone pot wasn't, so if we have to replace it, we have to replace it. I've got plenty. Let's check our work. Before we do anything else, let's make sure everything is working properly. The ground wire that was running from the shield to the toggle switch broke, so I figured I'd just lift the whole guard off the body anyway, and let's see what we've got going on. That's a good sign. I'm getting some noise. Let's just tap some poles. Yep. Neck is good. Bridge is good. Let's test the volume, if I can do it with one finger, which I cannot. Volume is working. Is tone working? Yep. Let's check the rhythm circuit. Yep. Working like a charm. This rhythm circuit switch feels like it's sticking a little bit, though. I am going to spray it out really quick and maybe even lubricate it. I'm not sure. We'll see how this works. Oh, feels better already. Uh-oh. Ooh, did we lose something? Uh-oh. Let's switch that a few times, because it doesn't want to work now in the engaged position. Might just be better to replace it. Wonder if touching up some solder will help. You can hear it wanting to engage. If I force it. Honestly, once a switch starts doing this, even if you do take the time to repair it, I find that it doesn't really last. You really have to press it in to get it working. I think I'm just going to replace it, because it seems like it's engaging maybe 2-3 times out of every 10. I don't know about you, but I just wouldn't want those odds on my guitar. I wouldn't trust it, so gonna replace that. All right, so I'm going to unscrew this guy from the front. Sad we couldn't save you, bud. You know what? I'm seeing this haphazard cutout for the rhythm circuit switch in the shield, and I'm wondering if it's preventing it from latching. I bet if I turn that amp on right now and switch back and forth between on and off in the rhythm circuit. I bet it works. I absolutely bet it works. Okay, all right. Wait, let's just make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can hear the noise changing because the rhythm circuit is cutting off all of the treble. It's working every time. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We've gone from 2 to 3 out of 10 to every out of 10, every out of 20. This rhythm circuit switch does not need to be changed. This thing works perfectly. It's this stupid cutout. So, okay, here's the plan. Why don't I take everything off the repro guard and adjust some of the cutouts so that all of the components fit the way that they're supposed to? I don't need to replace this switch at all. I'm stoked. I'm really happy about that. Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, let's do that, and we'll meet up at the end of everything. All right, I am back. Quick recap of the work I did in the interim. I cleaned and lubed the tuners. I installed a new nut. I polished and oiled the fretboard. I repopulated the reissue pick guard with the electronic components. The original 65 guard has sadly shrunk to such a degree that none of my old tricks work with regard to stretching it out. After that, I removed the vibrato. I cleaned it out because it was actually quite disgusting in there. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust. After cleaning out the vibrato and reinstalling it, popping the mastery bridge on and stringing this up and giving it a little bit of a setup, it didn't quite need as much neck angle pitch back as it had, especially with the mastery bridge. You just don't need that bridge to be standing straight up off the body. This guitar is going to need a refret probably in the next year, maybe 6 months, depending on how much it's played. These frets are incredibly low and incredibly flat on top. And in the end, we decided against doing the refret now because Matt just got the thing. He really needs to get to know this guitar and what it can do. And to his credit, he wasn't really bothered by the size or flatness of the frets to begin with. So we're gonna let that go for now and then come back to it later on down the road. Otherwise, what we are left with is one hell of a Jazzmaster. I'm really loving the feel, I'm loving the sound. The original bridge pickup sounds incredible now that the whole circuit works. The tone pot that I replaced is great now. Yeah, this thing came out really great. It even shined up really nicely too. So yeah, I think Matt has a really good guitar here. Oh, but wait, there's one last thing I need to do to this. That is rebend the arm so that it's not quite as goofy as it is right now. A lot of players, myself included, will bend the arm on their Jazzmaster or Jaguar so that it snakes around the bridge and meets their palm when they're plucking. And some people have to bend it quite far depending on where you're playing the guitar or how you like to bend it. That's all good. It's just that this is a bit of an extreme bend and probably won't work for Matt and his playstyle. I'm going to bend this back out to a much more graceful curve really quickly, and I'll just do that with my forearms. People ask me all the time, Mike, how do you get your arms to look like that? How do you get that curve in your arms? They're all vintage or AVRI 62 arms, and I usually just bend them with my forearm strength. But sadly, it's come to my attention that I have really meaty forearms, and so that procedure may not be practical for most people, which I fully understand, and I recognize that, and I'm sorry. But you can see already I've taken a lot of that bend out. A little bit more, and I'm going to bend at the tip. That bend just might always be there. I'm going to see if I can flatten that a little bit more. Oh, word to the wise. Generally, the safest way to do this is to heat the thing up. US or vintage arms are generally pretty stable and will take a lot of bending pressure. Import Japanese, Chinese, Indonesian arms, those arms I don't recommend just bending willy-nilly with your arm strength. I would absolutely recommend heating them up with like a heat gun, whatever implement you have to bring that metal to a more pliable state. It's just a safer way to do it overall. This is much nicer than that goofy bend straight in between the pickups that it had. I think that'll be enough. Last thing I'm going to do is one last hammer trick for the day. Let's see if that did the trick. Oh, that's much better. Oh. I'm going to lubricate the end of the arm just so that it turns smoothly without grinding. With the same thing I always use for lubrication, which is Burt's Bees. Let's see if we can't get an endorsement deal worked out with Burt's Bees too. Loctite is on the list. Burt's Bees. Let's get these companies to recognize the guitar market that they've been ignoring for too long. And the guitar market is basically just me. I have this on every one of mine. Yeah, give it a spin. And it'll still stay in place. You can swing it, you can move it. It just won't make a noise. And that's perfect. I'm gonna call this one done. I think this is a great guitar. Wonderful example of a 1965 Jazzmaster. It sounds incredible, especially with this original bridge pickup installed. And it cleaned up beautifully. So what do you say? We plug it in quick, we have a listen through the JCM 2000, and let's see what kind of trouble we can get into. Well, I think this came out great. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate your attention, coming back to the channel again and again. In any case, I hope you're taking care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you in the next video. Never